Good evening, 7th grade, and welcome to Lesson 6-2 on proportions. In tonight's lesson, we have two objectives. First, you will be able to solve proportions, and secondly, you will be able to use proportions to solve different sort of problems. Now first, what is a proportion? Well, it's an equality, meaning we can set two different ratios equal to each other, and really, they work out. So it's an equality. They show that they're equal. And the way we do this is with cross products, You do the cross products of it. So when you do a cross, you normally think like that. So here, I would multiply 6 times 12, and that should be the same as if I did 8 times 9. So 6 times 12 is 72, as is 8 times 9. So this forms a proportion, 6 9s and 8 12ths. So in order to solve it, again, well, if it contains a variable, you need to really make up an equation to solve this. And the way you do it is with cross products. So I have 2 7s is the same as y over 14. Well, I do the same. 2 times 14, I'm going across, is the same as 7 times y. And I need to simplify it. Well, 2 times 14 is 28. 28 is the same as 7y. Well, to get y by itself, they're multiplying by 7, so I'm going to divide by it. And y is 4. So 2 7ths is the same thing as 4 over 14. And here we have a and b. I would like you to solve both of these now. Go ahead and use cross products, and when you are all done, go back and check your answer. So go ahead and pause me now. All right, let's check those answers, shall we? So here I have h times 3, or I always like to write it with the number first. 3 times h is the same as 9 times 2. Well, 3 times h is 3h, 9 times 2 is 18. In order to get h by itself, I would divide, and I get h is 6. So our missing number here is 6. In b, I have to do the same idea. 4 times 55 is the same as or equal to 5 times t. Well, 4 times 55, I believe, is 220. And then that is 5t. Divide both sides by 5, and you get t is equal to 44. And that would be your answer. So go ahead and just make sure you have the right answer. And that'll tell us if we're ready for the next section. So here we're going to test for a proportion to see if two ratios are actually equal. And again, we're going to use cross products for it. Do the ratios 3/5 and 21/35 form a proportion. So we need to know, are these equal? These two ratios. And again, one way you can do it is doing 3 times 35 is the same as 5 times 21, and multiply. Well, 3 times 35 is, 105, and 5 times 21 is 105. So do they form a proportion? Well, the two sides are equal, so yes. I'm going to write the cross products are equal. And again, if they're ever not equal, so say one side only equaled 100, but the other side equaled 105, then the answer is no. It doesn't matter if they're a 10th off or 1 off or even 100 off. If they're not the exact same, they aren't proportions. So it's your turn again. You need to do A and B. So go ahead and check them, and when you're all done, come back and check your answer. Go ahead and pause me now. All right, it's time to do A first. So I'm going to go ahead and do 6 times 6 and see if that's the same as 9 times 4. Now this one you could probably do in your head. 6 times 6 is 36, as is 9 times 4. So yes, they are the same. So now we're going to do B. And again, I need to do cross products. 15 times 7, is that the same as 5 times 20? Or 20 times 5? And let's see, I get 105 when I multiply that out, and then I do 5 times 20 and get 100. These are not equal, so this is no. And again, the reason you can say they aren't equal, the products aren't equal, and I might write that, the products aren't equal. And yes, you do have to explain. I'm sorry, but you have to. There we go. So now we have solving a problem using a proportion. So now we're into the second objective. And this time, they're not just giving us a proportion. They're giving us a word problem that we have to solve. 100 rods is about 275 fathoms. About how many fathoms is 25 rods? Well, again, when we talk about proportions, that's made up of different rates. So they're comparing different things. This is a comparison they give us. 100 rods is 275 fathoms. And again, we could write rods here, and we could write fathoms if you wanted to. All right, the important thing to do when you solve proportions is make sure you keep the labels the same. So here we have rods on top. So we need to make sure that I keep rods on top. And any fathoms I put on the bottom. So now I go back to the word problem. About how many fathoms is 25 rods? Well, I know I'm dealing with 25 rods, so 25 goes on top. And I have to find out how many fathoms there are. So I put in F. And then I have a proportion, so I solve it. 100 times F is 100F. And then I have 275 times 20. 275 times 25, excuse me. And if you solve that one, 275 times 25 is 6,875. And again, I'd solve for F by dividing by 100. And you end up with F is 68 75 hundredths fathoms. Again, if there's a word problem, you need to have a label. So that would be my answer. Okay, your turn. 100 nautical miles equals about 115 standard or statute miles. About how many statute miles equal 381 nautical miles? And it says here, round to the nearest whole number. I want you to solve it. So go ahead and pause me now. All right, let's check this answer. So the proportion they give me here, or the first rate, is 100 nautical miles equals about 115 standard miles. And here I just use N for nautical and S for standard. That way I keep nautical on top, standard on bottom. Now, how many statute or standard miles, so I know it's going to be S for that one, equal 381 nautical miles. There we go. I have it set up. Now I solve. 100 times S is 100S. 381 times 115 is 43,815. And then I solve. Well, if they're multiplying by 100, again, I divide. And I get S is 438 15 hundredths, I believe. Oops. But again, they wanted us to round to the nearest whole mile. So really, that's about 438 nautical miles. So that would be my answer. All right, that was your lesson for tonight. Tonight we looked at proportions and using cross products to solve them. I will see you in class tomorrow. Have a great night.